Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into one of the most intimate and often unspoken parts of our lives, the complex interplay of sex, intimacy, and relationships.
Yeah, it's funny how universal it is yet.
Yet our conversations about it often remain in the shadows.
You're absolutely right. These topics are fundamental to our well-being, our connection, but societal norms frequently push them into private spaces.
Right, and that leads to misunderstandings, maybe unspoken resentments.
Exactly, and just a general lack of informed, open dialogue.
And that's exactly what we're here to change. This deep dive is designed to bring light to those hidden corners.
Mhm.
We've pulled insights from a truly candid conversation with a seasoned clinical sexologist, uncovering some really surprising truths about how we navigate connection through life's biggest changes.
Yeah, our source material is this rich transcript from that conversation with an experienced sex therapist. So our mission today is really to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight.
Kind of offer you a shortcut, right? To being truly well-informed about this often taboo topic of sexual wellness in a relationship.
Precisely. We aim to equip you with new perspectives, spark maybe some aha moments, and provide practical tools you can actually use in your own life.
So prepare for some deep reasoning, expansive dialogue, and maybe some lengthy thoughts that will challenge assumptions and broaden your understanding of what it means to truly connect.
Sounds good.
Let's start by looking at where expertise in this field even comes from. We're going to unpack something right away.
Hmm.
Our expert today, this clinical sexologist, she didn't just, stumble into this incredibly sensitive and nuanced field.
No, not at all.
Her journey began with this innate, almost unusual childhood curiosity. What was that origin story like?
It's actually a fascinating origin, and it really speaks to a natural inclination for this work. She described herself as like a weird kid, the one who wasn't shy about asking what some might consider pretty intrusive questions, even as a child. She'd ask how long people had been married, or, candidly ask adults about their sex lives.
Wow, really? Even as a kid?
Yeah. Her mother would react with, "That's inappropriate." But the young therapist just felt this urge to know all the things about human connection, about relationships. And it wasn't just a fleeting phase. She consistently found herself drawn to these topics, sensing there was this deeper narrative beneath the surface.
That kind of genuine, unfiltered curiosity about the hidden mechanics of human connection, that often points to a calling, doesn't it?
I think so.
And it sounds like this continued right into her adult life, even before she officially pursued sex therapy as a career. You mentioned her friends knew, oh, here comes Tori. Everyone be prepared to talk about their sex life.
Right. That level of comfort and openness she naturally fostered, even among her peers, it really suggests a significant aptitude for this highly personal field.
Yeah, you'd have to be comfortable.
It absolutely does. She recognized that the most profound and really life-changing conversations she'd had with people often revolved around sex. And this wasn't in a negative or scandalous way, but in a deeply positive, transformative sense.
Okay.
It highlighted for her this significant societal void in open discussion about these crucial aspects of our lives. When people finally felt safe enough to talk about it, the power of that shared experience was just immense, almost all-encompassing, as she put it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So this deep-seated understanding of a pervasive societal need, combined with her natural inclination, truly guided her path. She initially started as a social worker, getting that foundational understanding of human behavior, social systems.
Right, the groundwork.
Then she transitioned into the medical field for a bit, which provided a different lens on human well-being.
Oh.
And ultimately, opening her private practice and specializing in sex therapy felt like the natural step that synthesized all her experiences and passions.
That progression makes perfect sense when you hear it laid out like that. It's almost as if her experiences were continually nudging her towards this specific calling.
Yeah, it really seems that way.
But for those of us who might not be fully aware, what exactly does that natural step entail? When people hear sex therapist, they might not fully grasp the sheer rigor, the depth of the academic and professional path required to actually become a credentialed expert in this field. It's far more extensive than many might assume.
You've hit on a critical point there. She explicitly detailed the extensive education and supervised practice required, and it's truly comprehensive. It starts with a 4-year bachelor's degree, typically in social work, psychology, or, a related field.
Okay, the foundation.
Right, that provides a foundation in human behavior and therapeutic principles. Following that, there's a 3-year master's degree program. This is the foundational step required to become a general therapist, focusing on clinical practice, assessment, various therapeutic modalities.
So far, 7 years.
7 years. But the journey doesn't stop there. After completing the master's, she then undertook 2 years of therapy credentialing and supervision.
Okay, what does that involve?
This period involves working under the direct guidance and oversight of another licensed, experienced therapist, accumulating literally thousands of hours of supervised clinical practice.
Okay, so already that's 9 years just to be a general therapist, which is a significant commitment in itself.
A huge commitment.
But then, to specialize in sex therapy, what additional layers of training are involved? What makes a clinical sexologist distinct?
Right. So to become a credentialed clinical sexologist, she added another 2 years of highly specialized training.
2 more years.
2 more years. During this period, she worked specifically under a supervisor who was an expert in the field of sex therapy, delving deep into the complexities of sexual health, intimacy, relationship dynamics.
The real niche stuff.
Exactly. This involved additional specialized coursework, clinical hours focused specifically on sexual issues, and rigorous examinations to ensure mastery of the unique challenges in this domain. So if you total that up,
That's 11 years.
approximately 11 years of post-secondary education and supervised practice. She even drew a comparison to the length of medical school,
Wow.
emphasizing the profound depth of expertise and specialized knowledge required for this profession. It's not a casual undertaking. It's a dedication to mastering a very intricate area of human experience.
That extensive period of dedicated study and practice really underscores the complexity and sensitivity of this work. It's a profound commitment to understanding the human psyche, especially when sexual health and relationships are so deeply intertwined with overall well-being.
It certainly does. And here's where the conversation took a really interesting turn, highlighting a significant professional anomaly.
Yeah.
The therapist pointed out that Florida is currently the only state in the U.S. that requires specific credentialing for a sex therapist.
Wait, really? Only Florida?
Only Florida. This means that in any other state, a licensed therapist can simply call themselves a sex therapist without any additional specialized training specifically in sexual health, intimate relationships, or the unique therapeutic approaches required for this field.
That's staggering.
Yeah.
So theoretically, any therapist anywhere else in the country could just declare themselves a sex therapist without having gone through that rigorous 11 years of specialized training you just outlined.
Yes.
What are the real-world implications of that? I mean, the lack of standardization, how does it affect someone seeking qualified help in this deeply personal area?
Well, she described it as deeply problematic, wild even, given the many layers involved in the space of sex therapy.
I can imagine.
It's not just about surface-level issues. It delves into incredibly sensitive, complex, often traumatic experiences. Without specialized training, a general therapist might not possess the nuanced understanding or the specific therapeutic tools required to navigate issues like sexual trauma, desire discrepancy, body image concerns, effectively.
Right. They might miss things or even cause harm inadvertently.
Exactly. The danger, she explained, lies in generalizing therapy when so many things are intertwined within the psyche. She used the profound example of sexual trauma, explaining that it doesn't just affect one aspect of a person's life, it has a deep, profound ripple effect on their entire existence, impacting self-worth, trust, future relationships. Attempting to compartmentalize or pigeonhole such complex issues ignores the holistic nature of human experience. The core concept she emphasized is that people do not fit in a box.
That's a great way to put it.
Each individual and each relationship is unique, requiring a specialized, nuanced, and holistic understanding rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. This deep conviction is what drives her successful private practice, which has been running for about 5 years now, a clear testament to her passion and expertise.
When you reflect on that depth of training required in Florida versus the lack of standardization elsewhere, what does that say to you about the importance of seeking out highly qualified professionals, especially for such delicate areas of our lives? It really highlights the trust we place in a specialist.
Absolutely. It makes you really consider who you're turning to for help.
Speaking of life's significant turning points, one that often profoundly reshapes intimacy is the arrival of a baby.
Oh, yeah. Big one.
From her insights, what truly happens to a couple's sex life after new parenthood? This is a topic that hits close to home for me as a new parent myself, so it's a question I'm particularly eager to hear addressed.
It's an incredibly complex and challenging period, and you're definitely not alone in that experience. The therapist delved into the multifaceted challenges new parents face regarding their sex life, highlighting the interconnected physical, hormonal, and emotional shifts that occur.
It feels like everything shifts.
Everything shifts. For women, the physical and hormonal realities are immense. Our bodies undergo profound transformations, literally creating and sustaining new life. Hormones are, as she put it, quite literally all over the place, creating an internal landscape that is vastly different from pre-pregnancy.
I can absolutely attest to that. It feels like your body has been on an alien planet sometimes, just navigating constant changes.
Exactly. And then there's the physical recovery from childbirth, which is often severely underestimated. The common 6 to 8 week OB clearance, it often gives a false sense of readiness.
Right, that checkup.
Yeah, the therapist noted that if she had $1 for every time a woman told her she went for that clearance and her vulva wasn't even properly inspected before being told you're good to go, she'd be rich.
Oh, wow. That's not reassuring.
Not at all. Physiologically, the body is frequently not ready for it. Sex during this time can be different, really abrasive, and just genuinely uncomfortable or painful.
So it's not just about the visible physical healing, which itself is, a monumental undertaking after childbirth. It's much deeper than that.
Far deeper. Beyond the physical, there's the profound impact on brain chemistry. Hormonal shifts, especially if a woman is breastfeeding, drastically alter her brain chemistry, directly impacting desire, mood, overall sense of self.
Okay.
Then, add to this the immense task of navigating new parenthood. Both partners are learning to care for another human being, often for the first time.
While sleep deprived.
While sleep deprived, absolutely. And simultaneously trying to figure out their new roles as parents and partners within this entirely new family dynamic. Sleep deprivation plays a huge, often underestimated role in mood and patience, too.
That sounds like a perfect storm for potential conflict, or at the very least, a significant period of disconnection.
It is. And the therapist identified a major sex killer in this period. The resentment that builds when open conversations are not had during this incredibly chaotic time.
Resentment, okay.
Yeah. She painted vivid, relatable examples. The mom watching her partner use like 27 baby wipes for a single poopy diaper.
Uh-huh, I could picture that.
Or the classic scenario of seeing your partner undress next to the hamper and then just leaving their pants on the floor right next to it.
Oh, that hamper example is painfully accurate for so many. It's the little things that add up, isn't it?
They seem minor on their own, but they become symbols, right? Symbols of unacknowledged labor, unmet expectations. The therapist explained that these seemingly insignificant actions accumulate into a pile of resentment that gets shoved under the rug.
Mm-hmm. Out of sight, out of mind, until it's not.
Exactly. When couples eventually come to her trying to figure out why their sex life is dormant or fraught with tension, it's this pile of unspoken issues that she has to peel back and address. She's often lifting up the rug to reveal the accumulated unspoken issues that have simmered beneath the surface, sabotaging intimacy and connection.
And these challenges, of course, they're not exclusive to heterosexual couples, right? What about same-sex couples navigating new parenthood?
No, absolutely not. She was keen to acknowledge that these challenges are universal to new parenthood, not exclusive to heterosexual relationships. Same-sex couples also navigate the complexities of caring for a new human being, managing sleep deprivation, the intense emotional labor involved.
All the same stressors.
All the same stressors. And while hormonal fluctuations might manifest differently for a birthing parent, even phenomena like menstrual cycle synchronization, where partners living together sometimes find their cycles aligning, can add unique layers to their experience, impacting energy and mood. The core issue remains. When conversations aren't happening, resentment becomes the sex killer, regardless of gender or sexual orientation.
When you consider these profound shifts, like having a baby, it really makes you think, how might these unspoken resentments have played out in your own relationships or in moments of major life change?
It's a powerful question.
It truly reframes what we often see as personal feelings into a shared, universal, physiological, and emotional challenge.
Yeah, it takes some of the blame off the individual.
We've been discussing how these piles of resentment can build up, sometimes leading couples to finally seek help. When they do, how does a sex therapist approach these deeply personal issues? Does she prefer to work with individuals, or is there a strong emphasis on bringing both partners into the room?
That's a great question, and it's one the therapist gets asked frequently. Her therapeutic approach is firmly rooted in a couple-centric philosophy.
Okay.
She overwhelmingly prefers to see couples together, even when the presenting issue might seem, on the surface, to be an individual sexual problem. For example, if a man is experiencing erectile dysfunction or a woman has vaginismus,
Things that seem very specific to one person's body.
right, they might appear to be his problem or her problem to the individuals involved.
So she helps him understand that even seemingly individual issues often have roots or ramifications within the couple's dynamic.
Precisely. She insists these are fundamentally couples' problems because the solutions require joint effort. They are, as she says, not solvable on just one side. True, lasting change and resolution require both partners to engage and work through it together.
That makes sense. But what about the stigma?
Ah, yes. She's acutely aware of the significant stigma that still surrounds therapy, especially sex therapy. Many people are hesitant or resistant to seeking help, often due to shame or a belief that their issues are too personal to share.
So what happens when one partner is ready and willing to seek help, but the other isn't? Maybe because they don't see a problem or they're just not comfortable with the idea of therapy.
It happens a lot. Often, one partner will come to her individually, explaining that their partner is not ready or doesn't think they need to come.
Okay.
In these scenarios, she will work with the individual, developing strategies to hopefully, eventually, include the partner in future sessions. However, she admits that very rarely does she separate them out for extended individual sessions.
So the goal is always togetherness.
Her primary goal remains to bring couples together to face whatever they're facing, allowing her to serve as that mediation and support for both of them in the moment. The implication of one person seeking support alone, she noted, is that it can suggest, on some level, we're hiding something, indicating maybe a wavering in communication or connection within the partnership that needs addressing.
And I imagine that seeing both partners together provides a much richer, more immediate picture of their dynamic. It allows for real-time observation and intervention.
Absolutely. She emphasized that seeing couples together provides the real raw. It allows the therapist to observe nuanced expressions, subtle body language, and truly grasp the gravitational importance of issues for each partner.
You see the unspoken stuff.
Exactly. You can see on their face if they're almost in tears or breaking down or if they're deeply angry. This holistic observation enables her to mediate and support both individuals effectively, addressing not just what they say, but how they say it and how they interact.
This leads to another strong belief she holds, one that I've heard echoed by many in the mental health field. The idea that everyone needs therapy. She genuinely believes that everyone benefits from therapy, even those who feel they're in perfectly healthy, functional relationships.
It's a conviction born from her daily observations. She uses this great analogy of a hairstylist
Right.
who, when out and about, instinctively observes people's hair and thinks about what they need, a toner, a cut, whatever.
Right, you can't turn it off.
Exactly. Similarly, she finds herself observing relationship dynamics in public and thinking, man, they really need to work on this communication. But it's not a judgment. It's a desire for everyone to have the fullest, most loving, connected relationship ever. It's about optimizing, not just fixing.
That's such a powerful framing, viewing therapy as a proactive tool, almost like preventative maintenance for your relationship rather than just a last resort in a crisis.
Exactly. She frames therapy as an incredibly healthy and proactive tool. She firmly believes that many ugly, nasty arguments and crises and divorces could be avoided if people simply engaged in regular check-ins.
Like relationship tune-ups.
Yeah. She even suggested quarterly couples therapy as a routine maintenance measure, akin to getting an oil change for your car or a gentle checkup.
Huh.
Quarterly.
And she applied this to her own profession, stating that a therapist should have a therapist, and if they don't, it's a red flag.
Interesting. Walk the talk.
Right. It underscores her belief that no one, not even an expert, has everything figured out. We all have blind spots and benefit from an objective, trained perspective.
So it's not about digging for problems that don't exist,
Yeah.
but about building resilience and equipping yourselves with better tools for life's inevitable challenges.
Precisely. Therapy, she explained, provides a toolbox for navigating situations and processing feelings. It's about developing yourself and your relationship, recognizing that relationships are constantly developing and require ongoing attention.
Crucially, she highlighted that therapy helps verbalize struggles that you didn't really know existed until specific questions are asked and that digging occurs. This isn't about looking for a problem, but looking for the beginning of something that could potentially turn into a larger thing.
Catching it early.
Exactly. It's about being proactive, not reactive, in fostering ongoing growth and connection, ultimately making relationships more robust and joyful.
How does that idea of proactive therapy resonate with you? Could a quarterly check-in, or even just a regular intentional conversation with your partner, transform your own relationships? Maybe prevent those piles of resentment from building up?
It's a really compelling idea.
It's a powerful shift from crisis management to continuous development and flourishing.
Definitely.
We've been talking about relationships as a constantly developing landscape and how communication is key to navigating that evolution. But what happens when our bodies themselves introduce a whole new set of complexities, especially for women as they navigate something like perimenopause?
Right. Another huge transition.
How do these physiological shifts impact intimacy and overall well-being, and how can couples approach them effectively?
This is a critical bridge to cross and a topic of immense importance that is often overlooked until symptoms are, well, undeniable. While emphasizing she's not a medical doctor, the therapist explained that perimenopause can be profoundly upsetting and disruptive to a woman's sex life and overall well-being.
Okay.
Common symptoms include hot flashes, sure, but also significant vaginal dryness, which can often be a precursor that women experience before other symptoms intensify, as well as weight gain, low libido, brain fog.
The whole package, basically.
Pretty much. Imagine, she said, feeling sluggish, having gained weight, experiencing a significantly lower sex drive, and then when someone tries to be intimate, encountering severe dryness or discomfort. Bless that, she said. That sounds like a terrible time to try and connect intimately.
It certainly sounds like a perfect storm for discomfort, disengagement from intimacy, and just a general feeling of being out of sync with your own body.
Absolutely. This is where hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, is becoming very big and gaining more understanding.
Right, HRT.
The traditional view was maybe to wait until full menopause before considering HRT, but there's a growing trend towards replacing hormonal deficits as they appear during perimenopause, proactively addressing symptoms before they become severe.
So intervening earlier.
Yeah. While it is always a personal decision made in consultation with a qualified medical professional, for those who are suffering from debilitating symptoms, HRT can really help. She works with referral partners who are doctors to manage the medical side, and then she guides her clients on adjusting to these physiological changes and making necessary lifestyle shifts to support their overall well-being.
So it's not just about taking hormones. It's about understanding how these foundational biological shifts affect everything. Our moods, our energy, our entire experience of ourselves.
Precisely. She underscored the pervasive impact of hormones. They affect the brain, the blood, the bones, truly everything in our body's interconnected systems. Specifically, she highlighted the brain's limbic system, which is often thought of as our emotional or irrational brain, because it's responsible for our primal responses like fight or flight.
Okay, the survival brain.
Right. When a woman's internal environment is chaotic due to hormonal fluctuations, this part of the brain can become overactive, triggering a survival mode response that makes calm, rational responses incredibly difficult.
That makes sense.
She connected this directly to postpartum brain chemistry as well, emphasizing a broader theme of women's delicate internal kind of like environment and the distressing experience of feeling foreign in one's own body due to these powerful internal shifts. Therapy in this context plays a vital role in getting some people back on track with accepting and loving and embracing those changes and finding strategies to navigate them.
And are there specific hormones she recommends people discuss monitoring with a hormone specialist?
Yes, she advises going to a hormone specialist to get comprehensive lab work done, but the key hormones to particularly monitor are testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, and cholesterol.
Got it. The big ones.
Yeah. She even shared a personal anecdote revealing that at 34, she is on low-dose progesterone and testosterone, and it gives me life, significantly improving her sleep and overall well-being.
That's a powerful testimonial.
It really underscores how profoundly balancing these hormones can impact daily life and temperament. And speaking of sleep,
Always important.
she also emphasized its often underestimated critical role, directly connecting it to overall well-being and temperament. A single hour of lost sleep can drastically change one's disposition, impacting everything from patience with a partner to libido. Prioritizing rest is just foundational.
So how might a structured communication tool like the truth modality transform your difficult conversations, allowing for open, non-judgmental sharing?
It's a great practical tool.
And what new understanding do you have about the widespread effects of hormones on your brain and body, especially as we age or go through major life changes? It truly paints a picture of our internal landscapes being far more influential than we often realize, and how vital it is to acknowledge and address those shifts.
Yeah, it's not just in your head, it's physiological.
Let's circle back to postpartum and this idea of hormonal and physical recovery. This is a period of immense vulnerability for new mothers, yet society often heaps unrealistic expectations onto them.
Oh, definitely. The bounce back culture.
Exactly. How do these societal pressures impact recovery and ultimately intimacy, and how does your expert suggest we reframe them?
It's a huge issue, and the therapist spoke really passionately about it, drawing from both her professional and personal experiences as a new mother. She pointed out the utterly unrealistic societal pressure on women to get it together within just 3 months post-baby, to bounce back physically, resume their routines, re-engage sexually.
Goodness.
It is. Her personal mantra for herself and for her clients is profoundly simple yet radical in its honesty. You just did like the greatest thing on planet Earth that your body could possibly do. You created a human being from scratch and you pushed the sucker out of your hoo-ha.
And often, you're still creating nutrients for that baby if you're breastfeeding. It's an ongoing, monumental physical act that requires incredible energy and focus.
Exactly. She stressed the importance of remembering that this is just one period of your life, not a definition of who you are or what your body should look like forever. The focus during this time, she argues, should be on the absolute necessities for self-care and healing, acknowledging that sometimes even those can feel impossible.
Just surviving sometimes.
Right. From a physical recovery standpoint, she highlighted that if a woman's hormones are all over the place with low testosterone, for example, which impacts motivation and muscle building, trying to push herself to build muscle or burn fat at the gym can feel like a big waste of time.
Because your body just isn't cooperating.
Your body is simply not in a state to respond effectively, and you're dipping into reserves when you should be resting and healing.
So she's advocating for a complete reframing of postpartum expectations around physical recovery and appearance, moving away from that immediate bounce-back culture.
A radical reframing, in fact. She made this powerful, almost provocative proposal for postpartum. Her ideal message to society would be, no sex, literally expect nothing from this beautiful human being for a year.
Wow, for a year?
For a year. She advocated for giving new mothers all the grace in the world, with no expectations for this person, for their body, for sex, for intimacy. Instead, she believes the woman should be the one to guide that and open that door when she feels ready, whether that's at 6 months or a year and a half.
It's about her timeline, not society's.
Exactly. It's about her agency and her physical and emotional readiness, not external pressure.
That's a stark contrast to the current societal pressure, where it often feels like everyone is waiting for her to be back to normal, to be energized, to want sex again. This external pressure can create so much shame and disconnect.
It's the complete opposite, and she clearly sees that pressure as damaging. This leads to her broader, universal concept of the expectation killer.
The expectation killer. Okay.
She stated unequivocally, if you have an expectation, it just gives somebody the ability to let you down.
Huh. That's potent.
It is. This isn't about having no goals or desires, but about reframing how we approach situations. She advocates for entering situations with a lack thereof expectations, meaning you don't project a rigid outcome, thus preventing self-disappointment and removing the burden of unmet expectations from others.
So less set up for disappointment.
Right. And this isn't just about postpartum. She applies this universally to all relationships, declaring expectations. This is the #1 relationship killer for sure.
Wow, #1.
It's a powerful insight that can prevent so much heartache and miscommunication across all aspects of life, from how your partner loads the dishwasher to how they show up intimately.
How do societal expectations, particularly around postpartum recovery or other life transitions, create pressure points in your life, or for women you know?
It's everywhere when you start looking.
And more broadly, what areas in your life could benefit from adopting this lack of expectation mindset, both for yourself and for others? It truly shifts the dynamic from potential disappointment to a space of open possibility and acceptance.
That's a liberating thought, really.
If expectations can be so damaging, how do we then cultivate a vibrant sex life in long-term relationships? Especially when life inevitably gets chaotic and those unhelpful expectations start to creep in. How do we keep things hot and heavy without falling into the trap of unrealistic pressures or feeling like it's just another item on a never-ending to-do list?
That's the million-dollar question for many couples, isn't it? And it's where a lot of the work in sex therapy focuses. The therapist was quick to counter the media's often sexy and exciting portrayals of sex.
Right, the Hollywood version.
Yeah, with the grounding reality that sex is something you have to work for. It's not magic, it's effort, investment, intentionality.
Like anything worthwhile.
Exactly. She drew parallels to other essential areas of our lives. We work for our careers, we work for our children, we work to keep a clean house, we work for personal growth. Your sex life is no different, she emphasized. You cannot simply expect erotic moments to happen out of thin air or spontaneous desire to always align perfectly. It requires intentional effort and communication, a willingness to prioritize and actively engage.
So it's about being proactive and engaging with it, rather than waiting for it to just happen or become stale. And she also had a lot to say about focusing on quality over quantity, didn't she? Moving away from the pressure of frequency.
Absolutely. She acknowledged the societal trap of focusing solely on frequency, where couples get hung up on thoughts like, oh my God, we're only having sex one time a month, especially when comparing themselves to others or to their own past.
The comparison trap.
Definitely. But she advocated strongly for quality sex over quantity. Her reasoning was profound. If you're having sex 3 times a week, but it's just the same position, it's the same time, it's the same amount of foreplay, it's the same location, then you're not growing from that either. And crucially, you're not connecting as deep as you could with your partner.
It becomes robotic.
It becomes a chore, an obligation, rather than an intimate act.
That sounds like a slippery slope to a disengaged experience that actually diminishes intimacy rather than enhancing it.
Precisely. If it becomes rote, you're not pouring love, creativity, or genuine effort into the experience, and it can lead to a sense of checking out of the relationship. She contrasted this with having one really spicy night a week that involves fun, playfulness, switching things up.
Maybe an event of it?
Yeah, maybe in different areas around the house, trying new things, bringing genuine presence. That, she argued, leads to a much deeper connection because you're actually making the effort to be present, explore, and prioritize each other's pleasure and connection.
And part of that effort involves rethinking foreplay, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so often narrowly defined as just the physical acts directly preceding intercourse.
Yes, she completely redefined it, broadening the scope significantly. Foreplay is commonly thought of as only the sexual acts directly preceding intercourse. But for her, the broader, more impactful definition is foreplay is really everything else. It's 24/7.
24/7 foreplay. Yeah.
Okay. Anything that keeps the spice there throughout the day or week counts. She gave examples like flirting, giggling together, or even playfully smacking each other's booty.
The little things again.
These small, constant acts of connection, affection, and playfulness maintain that underlying spark, that sense of connection and desire, even when you're not in the bedroom. They build anticipation and intimacy outside of explicit sexual acts.
But what happens when life throws a significant curveball? When there's a crisis? It's hard to keep things spicy or even think about sex when you're in a financial rut, dealing with a major illness, or, as we discussed, navigating a new baby.
She was very realistic about that, acknowledging that life is crazy and crises happen all the time. During such periods of financial rut, losing a home, dealing with a sick family member, or the immense upheaval of a new baby, it is absolutely okay for the sex life to take the back seat.
That's reassuring to hear.
It's a natural and understandable consequence of immense stress and upheaval. However, the crucial step, she emphasized, is to let's acknowledge it. Don't ignore the pause or pretend it's not happening. Don't let it become another thing swept under the rug.
So not sweeping it under the rug like the resentment, but bringing it into the open. That's a powerful distinction.
Exactly. Instead, she suggested couples make a pledge to each other. Even when the sex life is dormant, continue to communicate about it.
Keep talking about it, even if it's not happening.
Yes. Share sentiments like, I miss that about it. I miss our space. I miss feeling connected to you. I miss being physically engaged with you. Or even, I know things are hard right now, but I'm looking forward to when we can reconnect in that way. By speaking about it consistently, even weekly during a long crisis, the door is so much easier to open when things improve.
Keeps the connection alive.
It prevents the silence from creating distance and ensures that intimacy, even in its dormant state, remains part of the conversation. This consistent, honest check-in, she concluded, is intimacy at its finest. It shows a deep commitment to the relationship, even when one aspect is temporarily on pause.
How can you redefine foreplay in your own relationship, extending it beyond the bedroom to those everyday moments of connection, flirting, and acknowledgement?
It opens up possibilities.
And what conversations can you start having about your intimacy even when things are challenging to keep the door cracked and maintain that fundamental connection? This reframes intimacy as an ongoing conscious effort rather than a spontaneous fleeting event.
It takes intentionality.
Speaking of keeping the spice alive and rethinking the traditional definitions of intimacy, let's talk about a topic that can often be a source of discomfort or even conflict for couples.
Sex toys.
Ah, yes, the toys talk.
How do you help partners navigate that conversation when one is eager to explore and the other is a hard no? It seems like such a common impasse.
It's an extremely common scenario in her practice, and often, as the therapist noted, a precursor to larger problems in the relationship.
Really? Interesting.
When one partner expresses a hard no to toys in the bedroom, her crucial first question is always, why? It's about exploring the underlying reasons, not just accepting the refusal at face value.
Digging deeper.
Yeah. This might involve unpacking past trauma, previous bad experiences, preconceived notions about what toys mean about their partner or themselves, or how their use translates or means something negative to that individual. Is it a fear of inadequacy? A belief it's cheating?
So it's less about the object itself and more about the narrative or the history attached to it for that individual. It's the meaning they've assigned to it. Exactly. She stressed that many couples come to her already defensive about this topic, which, she said, is already a killer for open dialogue. Openness to understanding is paramount.
Gotta lower the defenses.
Right. If one partner is genuinely open to understanding the other's why, truly listening without judgment generally, a healthy partner will reciprocate that openness and be willing to explore their own assumptions. But it's not always easy, and it often involves debunking unhealthy myths they might hold about toys or about sex in general.
So how do you even start that conversation without making the no partner feel inadequate, pressured, or accused of being boring?
That's key. She advises framing the conversation very carefully, shifting the focus from blame to shared exploration, instead of saying, this is what I want and you're not providing it.
Which is immediately accusatory.
Right. Try phrasing it as, what are some ways that you would spice up our relationship?
Yeah.
Or, I love our sex life and our connection, but I would love to add something new to it to keep things exciting for both of us.
Making it collaborative.
Exactly. This shifts the focus from the partner's perceived inadequacy to a shared experience and a desire for novelty, making it less confrontational and more collaborative.
And the idea that toys are the enemy is a particularly toxic myth, isn't it? Especially as people age and bodies inevitably change.
Absolutely. She highlighted that this mindset becomes especially toxic as we age. As hormones decline and tank, particularly in women, sensitivity in the vulva often decreases and dryness increases. At this stage, she emphatically stated, we need help.
A biological reality.
Yeah. There's nothing more upsetting for a woman, she explained, than feeling super aroused mentally, feeling horny and ready for this moment, only to physically experience Sahara Desert when intimacy begins, or a significant lack of sensation. You lose that physiological response, your hormones aren't cooperating.
So toys become a vital tool to bridge that gap, to enhance pleasure and make intimacy more accessible and enjoyable.
Exactly. She reframes them as a tool of help and pleasure. She even called them a cheat code for the bedroom.
A cheat code. I like that.
Right. An effective shortcut to deeper pleasure. They provide extra stimulation and can help a woman get off so much faster. She gave a practical example. Nipple clamps can provide intense, localized sensation in one specific area, which then frees up a partner's 2 hands and a mouth for other forms of stimulation, leading to a much more multifaceted and satisfying experience for both.
Maximizing resources.
It's about leveraging all available resources for mutual pleasure and maximizing the experience.
And that naturally leads into the orgasm gap, something many women struggle with, where men are far more likely to orgasm during partner sex than women.
Yes. She acknowledged that many women have never had an orgasm intimately with a partner, or only very rarely. This, she clarified, is so much more common than we realize, and it's something that absolutely needs to be addressed because no one should be in that space where they're consistently not experiencing pleasure.
It leads to so much frustration.
It can lead to self-blame, feelings of inadequacy, especially when comparing oneself to media portrayals or others' perceived experiences. She emphasized the critical importance of self-exploration of one's own body to truly understand what stimulation works best for them as a foundation for communicating those needs to a partner.
Know thyself first.
Exactly.
And beyond the obvious erogenous zones, are there overlooked zones couples should explore, especially in long-term relationships where things might become routine and predictable?
Definitely. In long-term relationships, people often stick to the common erogenous zones like the neck, ears, genitals. She encourages couples to branch out and explore other areas that might have been overlooked, such as the lower back, the inner thigh.
New territory.
Yeah, or even using blindfolds to heighten other senses. The blindfold technique, she explained, helps a woman get out of her brain and into her body a little bit more, forcing her to experience sensations more purely without the mental distractions of self-consciousness or overthinking.
Getting out of your head. That's huge.
It leads to deeper, more profound experiences, continuously discovering new sensations and deepening connection through novelty and curiosity.
What unhealthy myths about intimacy might you be holding on to, perhaps unknowingly?
We all have some, probably.
And how could reframing a perceived challenge, like the use of sex toys as a tool or a cheat code, open up new possibilities and deeper pleasure in your own life and relationships? This really challenges us to reconsider what normal or expected intimacy looks like, and instead embrace what actually brings pleasure and connection.
It's about expanding the definition.
So if our bodies and desires can change so much over time, and we have tools to explore them, how do we align these individual needs within a partnership, especially when those needs might diverge?
That's the tricky part.
And what about the often misunderstood, sometimes stigmatized world of kink and BDSM? How does that fit into a healthy sexual dynamic, and how does your expert navigate those conversations?
These are crucial questions, and they often lead to some of the most profound breakthroughs in therapy. She introduced a concept she uses called intimacy mapping,
Intimacy mapping.
a process designed to break down all the pieces that can make that really spicy place for each partner. This is vital because, as she emphasized, desires, preferences, and even what constitutes intimacy are usually really different between two people. What lights one person up might not even register for another.
So it's like learning your partner's unique intimacy language,
Yeah.
much like the 5 love languages model,
Mhm.
but specifically for sexual and intimate connection.
Exactly. She used that analogy, explaining that just as you love your partner in the way they want to be loved, not necessarily how you want to be loved, intimacy should be approached similarly. She follows Dr. Marilyn Granick's modality, which identifies 8 different types of intimacy.
Types, like what?
These encompass not just physical touch, but also emotional, intellectual, recreational, even spiritual connection, showing how multifaceted connection truly is.
Wow, okay. Much broader than just sex.
Much broader. The therapist will work with couples to map out each partner's strongest type of intimacy, their first, second, and third preferences, to understand where their natural alignment lies.
And what happens if the partners are polar opposite in their intimacy maps? Or if their top preferences just don't align? That seems like it could create significant friction.
It can. If they are polar opposite, solutions can involve finding common ground where their maps might intersect, perhaps a shared recreational activity that also builds emotional intimacy. But crucially, she also normalizes the idea of sexual experiences being for you and for me.
Meaning?
Meaning normalizing separate sections or me-focused time and you-focused time within their intimate life.
Taking turns focusing on one person's pleasure.
Exactly. This me-focused time is particularly crucial for women who may often be in their head or goal-focused during sex, allowing them the time and space needed for their pleasure without pressure or feeling like they're holding up the process for their partner. It frees them to explore their own sensations and desires.
That's such an important distinction, to de-emphasize performance and prioritize individual pleasure as a pathway to shared pleasure. And now, let's talk about BDSM and the kink community, which for many is still shrouded in mystery and misconception, often conjuring up extreme images.
It is, and she speaks to this from a deeply personal and professional perspective. She identifies as a kinky individual herself
Okay.
and often discusses this space with couples who are curious or maybe resistant. Her best way to describe it, especially to those who might feel it's not for them, is through the giant umbrella analogy.
The giant umbrella.
She explains that sexual space is a huge umbrella, and vanilla sex, what's often considered conventional or mainstream, is just one item under it. Beneath that umbrella are thousands of other things that are often misunderstood and unfairly stigmatized.
So it's much more expansive and diverse than the common stereotypes of, say, whips and chains.
Vastly. She actively corrects the misconception that BDSM is just chains against the wall or punishable sex. Instead, she emphasized the core values of the kink community: communication and consent.
Communication and consent, that sounds fundamental.
They are the ground rules, the absolute bedrock, and they are bigger than like punishing somebody. These are non-negotiable principles. The true goal, she explained, is choosing your desires and how to make them happen, essentially, exploring your wildest fantasies in a safe, consensual, and often playful space. It's about exploration, trust, and pushing boundaries together.
She even shared an anecdote about a professional dominatrix, didn't she? Which really brought home the idea of fantasy fulfillment in a highly structured, consensual way.
She did. She mentioned a friend who earns significant money, up to $2,000 for a 30-40-minute session as a professional dominatrix.
Wow.
The value, she explained, is in providing the most erotic experience that you wish could exist when a partner would never show up that way or maybe wouldn't take it seriously. It offers a safe, respectful, cohesive space for fantasy, allowing individuals to explore desires that might otherwise go unfulfilled due to a partner's discomfort or lack of understanding.
Creating a specific container for fantasy?
Oh, exactly. It's about creating a container for a specific fantasy that might not fit into a conventional relationship.
So, for her clients, does she find that many are already kinky and just don't know it? Or is it more of a discovery process she guides them through?
It's often a discovery. She noted that more clients don't realize they're kinky when they first arrive in her office, usually bringing a broader relationship issue. She then helps them funnel their life into the kinky realm and find what resonates with them, sometimes realizing that their seemingly niche desires actually fall under the kink umbrella.
Huh. Connecting the dots.
Yeah. Even for vanilla partners, opportunities exist to explore kink desires in non-romantic ways or within parameters established by the couple. She gave an example of couple kink parties they might attend, where there are established rules about what was good for them, what was safe, what was considered part of their monogamy circle.
Setting clear boundaries is key.
Always. It's about exploring boundaries and preferences safely.
That's fascinating. Can you share a specific case study of how she helped a client navigate a kink desire within the relationship, especially when there was initial reluctance from a partner?
She shared a poignant case about a client who intensely desired spanking and oil rubs, and it was so consuming that it was affecting her overall intimacy with her partner, creating a palpable tension.
Okay.
Her partner was initially very uncomfortable with this specific desire, finding it alien or even disturbing. It took a very long time to get there, she explained, emphasizing the patience and consistent effort required.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Definitely not. But with clear rules, parameters, consent, and communication established in therapy, the partner eventually found some comfortability with it. Crucially, even if the desire wasn't fully experienced by the partner in the same way, the partner's understanding his validation that, I don't understand, but I understand that it's important to you, was key for the client.
That validation sounds huge. Just being heard and accepted.
It was about acceptance and willingness to engage on some level.
But sometimes, despite all the work and communication, some fantasies just aren't compatible within a relationship, are they? Like the client who desired a threesome.
That's a vital point she normalizes. She addressed the reality that sometimes certain sexual fantasies, like a threesome, in the case of this client where the partner said, no, that will never happen, may never be fulfilled within a specific relationship.
Okay, so what then?
In these situations, she encourages clients to weigh pros and cons. You have to ask, does this partner provide safety, emotional growth, financial stability, and truly function as a life partner for life outside of sex?
Looking at the whole picture.
Exactly. She concluded that it's not black and white, but there is a lot of space and workaround and compromise. Intimacy mapping, she stressed, can often help find alternative ways to fulfill a yearning, even if the exact fantasy isn't realized. It's about finding satisfaction in the broader landscape of intimacy and connection.
How might exploring different types of intimacy, or even the concept of me-focused time, deepen your own connections and expand your definition of sexual fulfillment?
It really broadens the possibilities.
And what new perspectives do you have on the often misunderstood world of kink, particularly its strong emphasis on communication and consent as foundational principles? It truly opens up a conversation about how broad and varied human sexual expression can be.
It demystifies it quite a bit.
This leads to a final provocative thought. How critical is a fulfilling sex life to the overall health and longevity of a relationship? When are unmet sexual needs a deal breaker? And how do we navigate that incredibly delicate balance between individual desire and partnership realities?
This is truly where the rubber meets the road in sex therapy, and it's a question that brings many couples into her office. The therapist acknowledged that the criticality of sex varies immensely from person to person.
It's not the same for everyone.
Not at all. For some individuals, their sexual landscape is so critical to them, it's a fundamental piece of their identity. For such a person, if a partner says sex is off the table or consistently unavailable, it's perceived as wiping away half of what they are, a profound loss of self-expression and connection.
That's a profound way to put it. Seeing sexual expression as integral to one's core identity, not just a recreational activity.
It is. However, for others, a particular desire might simply be an intense fantasy they enjoy exploring, rather than a core identity piece. The role of sex therapy, she explained, is to help clients identify where is the threshold, that deeply personal point where a person feels they can't continue to stay in the relationship due to persistently unmet sexual needs.
Finding that personal line.
Yeah, and this is a very personal and often difficult point to define, requiring deep introspection.
And it sounds like this threshold can sometimes lead to people exploring avenues like open relationships or polyamory, thinking that's the answer to their unmet needs.
Exactly. She often sees clients where one partner expresses a desire for an open or polyamorous relationship, while the other is a hard no. But here's her crucial insight, gleaned from years of practice. Oftentimes, through the process of sex therapy, that person realizes they're seeking non-monogamy not out of a genuine desire for it, but because I'm not having 9 out of 10 my needs met within their primary relationship.
Trying to outsource the needs.
Right. This, she firmly stated, is the wrong reason to seek non-monogamy or polyamory. It's using an external structure to fix an internal problem.
So it's not a solution to underlying relationship problems. It can actually exacerbate them if the foundation isn't solid.
No. Her prerequisite is always to first establish the sanctity of your own relationship, which includes clearly defining boundaries, rules, and understanding each other's needs and desires through deep and honest communication.
Get your own house in order first.
Exactly. Only then, from a place of strength, clarity, and mutual understanding, can other forms of relationship structures be genuinely explored if that is truly what is desired for the right reasons, not as a desperate fix.
Ultimately, it's a nuanced discussion about compromise. It's not about sacrificing your sexual needs entirely, but evaluating their weight against everything else your partner brings to your life.
Precisely. You choose a partner for anything that they bring to your life outside of sex. Their companionship, their emotional support, their shared values, their personal growth. While sexual fulfillment is undoubtedly important and for some identity forming, it's about exploring how can we make it happen through workarounds, communication, and compromises within chosen partnership.
Finding creative solutions.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that some fantasies may simply not be compatible with the life partner you've chosen, but also actively seeking alternative ways to fulfill those yearnings through intimacy mapping and open dialogue. It's not black and white, but there is a lot of space and workaround and compromise when both partners are willing to engage. To leave you with a final, truly provocative thought from the therapist, her core message is to make space for your life, your sex life. It is important, fighting for that.
Make space and fight for it. Powerful.
Understanding intimacy mapping and figuring out how you and your partner are compatible across all types of intimacy, not just the physical, can truly ignite and transform your sex life. She even mentions sex homework.
Sex homework.
Yeah, tailored sexual experiences couples can engage in, then discuss honestly, analyzing positives and negatives to create more profound and personalized future experiences. Ultimately, her message is simple and powerful. You deserve it. You deserve a fulfilling, connected, intimate life.
This deep dive has truly transformed our understanding of intimacy, from the foundational aspects of a therapist's rigorous training to the most complex dynamics within relationships. The insights shared today really underscore the power of communication, proactive engagement, and the courage to explore.
Yeah, it covers so much ground.
What an incredible deep dive into the world of intimate relationships and personal growth. We've journeyed through the surprising path of a sex therapist, navigated the turbulent waters of postpartum intimacy, and the profound impact of hormonal shifts.
And explored the power of open communication through tools like the truth modality.
We also unpacked how societal expectations can sabotage our most vulnerable moments and the importance of releasing those burdens.
Right. Most importantly, we've seen how keeping the spark alive in long-term relationships isn't about magic, but about intentional effort, quality connection.
And even embracing new cheat codes like sex toys.
Or exploring the nuanced world of kink through the foundational pillars of communication and consent.
And perhaps the biggest takeaway is that our sexual well-being is deeply intertwined with our overall identity and relationship health. It's not always black and white.
Definitely not.
And there are many paths to fulfillment. With the right tools and mindset, compromise and understanding can lead to richer, more profoundly fulfilling connections.
Indeed. We've talked about a wide spectrum of experiences, from the most common challenges to highly specific desires. The thread that connects it all is the ongoing conversation, the willingness to understand, and the courage to explore what truly works for you and your partner.
If anything we discussed today sparked a new thought, challenged an old belief, or gave you an aha moment, we encourage you to continue that deep dive on your own.
Keep thinking about it.
Consider how these insights might apply to your own life and relationships. What aspect resonated most with you? What conversation might you start today? We trust that you're now better equipped to approach the topic of intimacy with more awareness, less judgment, and a profound appreciation for its complexities.